universe, media, network, 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 network.
Welcome to the STL REI Girls Podcast, recorded live at Webster Groves Garden Cafe, 117 East Lockwood Avenue in Webster Groves, Missouri. I'm Sandra Holtmeyer.
And I'm Sherry Zink.
We have a guest co-host today. Sherry's here with us, and we have Linda Borghi with us. So today we're talking to Linda Borghi of Dazzle Home Staging. Linda has been in the real estate industry for 12 years. Is determined, feels like her job is a joyride, and has the goal of being the most sought-after home staging company in St. Louis. So welcome, Linda. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
And yeah, we're excited to have you. So tell us a little bit about your personal life, Linda.
Oh, gosh. Let's see. I work a lot, so I don't have a huge, exciting personal life. I do have two kids. I have a son who's a senior in high school and figuring out what he's going to do with his life next year. And then I have a 20-year-old daughter. So they keep me busy still, even at their age. And other than that, you know, I like I said, I work a lot. I'm kind of into fitness, so I spend time working out and, you know, walking, exercising, and trying to eat healthy. So that's pretty much what I do with my time.
Good to know you then. Thank you.
Linda, how long have you been doing home staging or working in real estate, doing what you do?
12 years. I started the business 12 years ago. I've always kind of had my nose in interior design in some way. Every home I've ever lived in, I've totally torn apart and redesigned. Even if it didn't look like a home that needed it to start with, I found a reason to redo anything.
Made it yours.
And made it mine. Yeah. So kind of, just been at it for a long time, but technically, from a business standpoint, I own the business for 12 years. So doing it for other people.
That's cool. So kind of answered this a little bit, but maybe you can expand upon it. But what appealed to you most about working in this industry?
Gosh, I love real estate, so it was two really sexy topics. It was like interior design with real estate, two things that I really love, and you marry those two things, and it was my dream, my dream idea of something to do for a living. So
that's awesome.
Stepping back a little bit, since you've been doing this for 12 years, can you tell us a little bit, just so the audience kind of gets to know you a little bit more, what kind of support did you have when you started? Were you solo? Did you have a partner back then? How did you get started?
Yes, so I really started on my own. I was kind of a one-woman show. I would buy furniture on Craigslist and, Target and everywhere I could find furniture, and I would redo it. I would paint it. I would reupholster.
Oh, wow.
At night. I would schlep furniture. It wasn't unusual for me to have like a rolling cart on one end and trying to get a sofa into a house by myself. So I did all of it. I answered the phone. I did all of my accounting work, all of it. So started out slow. The first year in business, I only staged 2 homes, and then the second year it was 9, and then 27, and
wow, that's exponential growth.
It is.
Yeah. And then this, in 2019, we staged just right at 400 vacant homes.
Wow.
So we've grown a lot. So,
That's
and
amazing.
I do have support today, unlike in the beginning.
Right.
I look back and I think I could never go through it again. I couldn't do it over again if I knew what was entailed.
Looking back, right. You must have a big warehouse and trucks and...
We do. We have a
10,000
square foot warehouse. We have a couple of box trucks and a van, and we have about 100 homes staged at any given time. So what we have in our warehouse is it's really just a small example of what we have in our inventory.
My jaw's hanging open over here.
That is wild. So
it is. It's a candy store. It's so fun. Today we have so much. And I tell our stagers that. I'm like, if you would have been with us in the beginning when we had nothing to work with, sometimes they'll complain, we're out of this, or we don't have any console tables. And I'll go, oh my gosh, you guys are spoiled. Like, you've got a candy store to choose from.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So going back to that first year, and, it sounds like you purchased a lot of furniture. Did you purchase and start, rehabbing this furniture before you had even your very first home to stage, and tell us about that first home that you staged.
Yeah, well, the very first home that I staged was kind of really just to get my feet wet and, to get some pictures, because that's really, what you need to be able to sell yourself and your business. So I did it for, very little money. It took me 3 weeks to stage the house, and I pretty much just went out and shopped all day, staged at night, sewed curtains, I sewed pillows, I reupholstered chairs, painted, whatever it took. And I used the budget of what I got paid on that job for the inventory. So I started out with really no money at all and just did it on a shoestring budget. So
that's cool.
It forced me to be very creative and crafty and work with very little resources. But
that's so inspiring, though. I think some people are afraid to start because they have nothing, but you're living proof you really can start with nothing and build something.
You really can. It takes a lot of creativity and a lot of elbow grease, but it can be done. And sometimes I think I still need to remind myself of those days, sometimes you just need to step back and go, okay, what do we really need? Because you know what you can get by with.
So with that, I have to further ask then, you had to, you painted furniture, you were buying off of Craigslist, and you don't have to do that anymore, I'm guessing. But is there anything that you buy that you still do some sort of a sprucing up to because it meets a certain look for you?
Yeah, well, thankfully we don't have to go to those extremes to buy furniture anymore. For the most part, I go to market every year, and so we buy wholesale, and the truck just backs up right to our warehouse, unloads. We have guys that assemble it, and it's a wonderful thing.
That's great. What a transition.
It is. But, that being said, we still like to have a good mix. So it's great to have, brand new furniture, beautiful furniture. But I love mixing the old with the new and those unique pieces of whether it be artwork or an antique typewriter or, just something out of the ordinary that really catches people's attention that's not boring and, kind of stale.
Yeah.
Or, looks like it came all matchy-matchy out of a box.
Right. Yeah. Oh, I like that. Are there any particular pieces that are your favorites then?
Gosh, we have, some of the pieces that we've had for, 10, 12 years are the tried and true favorites,
Oh, yeah.
And they're the things, they're usually accessories or pieces of art that buyers walk in and they've tried to get us to sell it time and time again, and we don't part with it because we know the attention that it gets when we put it in a house. So there are some pieces like that we just hold on to, and we know they work everywhere, and they're just, they get a lot of attention. So,
Linda, what was your first big success after opening your business?
My first big success, I would say, came kind of surprisingly. So I had staged that first house, and so I have some now before and after pictures, and I now have this, this very kind of primitive website, and I'm advertising in that way, just with a website simply. And I get a call one day from a TV news anchor. And at first I think it's kind of a hoax. I'm not really believing that she's, calling me to ask about me staging her own home. But in the end, I found out it really was, the truth. She wanted us to come out and meet with her and stage her house. So set up an appointment. I met with her husband, and, it's kind of one of those things like fake it till you make it. I have the experience now of staging one house. Very little business experience at all. And
I love
so
this.
I walk in and
great.
I'm telling him, what he needs to do with the house, and he's trying to sell by owner, and I'm trying to convince him that that's not the greatest idea in the world. And he's got this beat up chair that's the only thing in the house, and that's what he's sitting on when he's showing, people through the house. And I'm telling him, why that's not a good idea. And so we have the meeting, and I left, and I told him, I'll get back to you. Well, his wife calls the news anchor 2 hours later, and she says, my husband was very impressed. I about fell over. I thought, oh my gosh, I really did a good job of, faking it until I make it.
I love that.
But yeah, so I got the job, and we did it. And, that really, I think, put me on the radar of a lot of top realtors.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
That
in
is
the area. So
that's
that was
a big lucky break.
It was
That's
a lucky
great.
break.
I love
And,
that.
this house had its challenges, and it was having trouble selling. And then we staged it. It sold right away. So that was really a big
That's
break.
great. Yeah. Good for you. Well, you obviously did something to catch their eye in the first place, so that's great.
So tell us about one of your favorite types of, let's say, I'm sure you've worked with realtors and real estate investors on some really tough properties. Any of those that really stick out that made it like a favorite kind of win to help them?
Yeah, we stage so many that are kind of all alike, or they're all pretty, they're all brand new. And, sometimes it's the homes that have a little challenge that we actually like. Like at first, those would kind of intimidate us, but now we kind of live for those because it gets our creative wheels turning and it's a challenge. And so, sometimes we even still surprise ourselves to this day, at the transformation, how we can take something that looks a little wonky or it's a little disconnected. It might have 3 different types of flooring and, they didn't have the budget to run it all the way through. So we'll stage it with area rugs and it just looks really cohesive and beautiful. And it's just amazing how much that staging can make a difference.
Yeah, I can imagine that makes it the fun part. Like you said, is you can really transform
rewarding.
Something that doesn't just look new.
Absolutely. And then when it sells, that's like the prize. Of course, you just want it to sell. We can all make a house look beautiful, but at the end of the day, it's got to sell, and it's got to sell at top dollar because that's why we're doing what we do. So
that's right. Can't just be beautiful to us.
Right.
Well, as a real estate agent, I get these houses sometimes. I have one coming up soon. Like it's got an unusual enough floor plan, some people are going to struggle with it, Or if the room is too square. I've had kitchens that are perfectly square and people don't envision, where's my fridge going to go? Like you've got to put things where people can see.
You really do.
Yeah.
You have to paint the picture for them and do the work. You have to take the work out of the equation for them because if they come in and they're questioning, if they have questions on either, how the furniture is going to lay out, what the purpose of a room is, those type of things, those doubts are going to keep them on the fence, and we need to move them off the fence. We need to just convince them that as soon as they walk in, they are just falling more and more in love with this home as they're walking through, and then they just have to have it. They have to write an offer right there, right now. They've got to have that house.
Oh. Yes.
I like that as an agent. I like when that happens.
That.
I know.
That's
but
awesome.
I've had people turn around and say, I don't think my furniture will fit, and they leave,
Yeah.
So I have tape measure, and that nobody knows how big their furniture is.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
You have
And
to have them at
sometimes-
hello.
Exactly.
You have to be so on the movie right there. I was just following right along.
Absolutely.
Well, Linda, what previous experience did you bring with you from previous jobs, experiences that have helped you in your current business?
I think it's, I've tried on my own. I was one of the people who would try 3 different wall colors, before I finally decided on which one I'd settle for, or, back when wallpaper was a thing, 20 years ago. Now it's coming back. But, in furniture, buy and, return and try and curtain, all of that. So I've done so much of it with my own homes, and I've lived in, I think I counted the other day, I think I've lived in 9 different homes. And every time that I would sell a home, people would always want to buy the furniture in the house. I'd always get asked that question. And I think after a while, I always say that interior design and staging is really more of an art than a science.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly. You can go to school, but it's really something it's an artistic characteristic that you have to have. So just, kind of doing that for myself and seeing what worked and what appealed to other people is something that I brought to the table.
So what's been your favorite experience throughout this whole process and industry?
Gosh, I think, working with some realtors that I thought I would never work with. And in the early days, I can remember some of the high producing agents, and they wouldn't give me the time of day. They didn't know who I was not on their radar whatsoever. And those same agents are calling us today and wouldn't work with anyone else other than us. And so it's been very cool to to reach that point. And they refer us to all their clients. They trust us. They know what